Dustin Abbott, and in our second segment, as we examine these new primes from Tamron, we're going to be examining Tamron's claims regarding them being super performing lenses. Tamron has long used the SP moniker to kind of designate its higher end lenses, but they seem to be choosing that as kind of their theme for this completely new line of lenses. And in our last segment, if you haven't watched already, we took a look at the build quality, how that these are almost all metal construction, very professional grade build with a completely new kind of design philosophy for Tamron, right down to a new look in their overall logo and their font there. Tamron is making a serious investment into these new line of prime lenses, and it's been a long time since I've seen a Tamron Prime outside of its macro lenses. And the last time I remember seeing a Tamron Prime is back in the days of the Adapt-All mount that some of you might remember. And so this is a new endeavor for Tamron. And so are these lenses actually super performance? Of course, Sigma came onto the market a few years ago with its Art Series lenses and really kind of shook up the status quo. They were beautifully designed lenses with incredible optics, and they did have a few issues, and kind of the fatal flaw that I've encountered with the various Art Series lenses that I've reviewed, I think 4 of them now at this point, is that they tend to have issues sometimes with autofocus consistency. And so Tamron has elected to not build clones of the Sigma lenses, although they certainly seem to have borrowed a few design elements perhaps. But they have chosen to go, number one, with lenses that have a maximum aperture of f1.8 instead of kind of the professional grade f1.4. I think that Tamron is going to have to overcome a bit of a perception gap when it comes to that, because a lot of people may feel that they need f1.4. The way that Tamron has chosen to differentiate these lenses, however, is to make them image stabilized with their VC or vibration compensation. So let's kind of take a look at these. There's a 45mm and a 35mm f1.8. Obviously, there are a number of design similarities in them, and I don't think it's a coincidence that they are coming to the market at the same time. And so a lot of what I'm going to say applies to each, and if I think that they're differentiated in some way, I will mention that. And so, are they super performance? In a lot of ways, the answer to that question is yes. Here are a few ways that they really are set apart and I think exceptional. In their overall design and build quality, these are exceptional lenses. They have weather sealing to a greater degree than what we typically see in these type of prime lenses. They have an overall better build quality that is more professional grade. They feel fantastic in the hand. The overall design is great. If I could offer up any criticism at all, it's that the finish it seems to not quite collect fingerprints, but you can see sometimes where your fingers have been on it. But that's a fairly small criticism. And so the overall build right down to something you rarely see these days, and that is actually metal front filters, threads. And so these have a lot of pro-grade design qualities, flooring coating on the front element that you often only see on far more expensive lenses. And so I really see a lot of great things happening there when it comes to the overall build. Another way where these are super performing is that they have what is one of the best manual focus lens rings on a non-manual focus only lens that I've seen. There's a full 180 degrees of rotation here, and I found the ability to focus these to be quite easy. I realize that not everyone wants to use them in a manual focus fashion, but should you need to in some kind of situation, it's a delight to know that these actually do focus very well. And of course, it becomes far more important for those of you that are doing more than just stills photography. If you're doing videography, these lenses are going to be a treat for you to use. They've got great focus rings on them and enough of a focus travel to have some precision in focus. And so these, if you're kind of doing video on somewhat of a budget, we should take a look at these lenses because they perform very well for that. Another way where, when it comes to the overall image quality, these are right up punching at the very, very top of the class when it comes to image quality. The resolution is very high. That resolution goes across the frame. They designed these to compete with Sigma's Art series, and they are certainly neck and neck with those lenses, and you know, even in some areas, maybe even a hair better. And so obviously the Sigma Art series is fantastic optically. And so I would say that that certainly allows these to be called super performance in that area. I think it is worthwhile to pause here for a moment and to consider these images. I'm giving you both full-size images and then the cropped details. All of these are wide open at f1.8, either from the 35 or 45 millimeter lenses, and look at the exquisite amount of detail, including this wide open landscape shot, which is certainly a challenge for prime lenses, but you'll see from these crops that there is no hint of haziness or indistinctness, but rather that the textures are rendered very nice and crisply. This is a very impressive performance. Another area where they are fantastic is in their ability to control any kind of flare. Like some prime lenses are really flare prone. That's kind of the nature of the beast. But with their various coatings and use of elements in here, they have almost completely defeated. I have actually not seen any kind of veiling, ghosting artifacts, anything, even when shooting, and I've tried to do it a lot to test Tamron's claim, and I've not seen that at all. And so they've done a great job with that. Of course, Tamron's image stabilizers are renowned as being very good. Their VC systems work very well. However, I've tested a lot of Tamron lenses with VC. I think that these are like my 16th or 17th lenses that I have either owned, reviewed, or used over the years of Tamron's, modern in a Canon EF mount lenses. And I've seen ups and downs in terms of the actual performance of the VC. Not so much in its ability to stabilize. They all do a great job of that. But sometimes you'll see some movement in the viewfinder, or you'll notice when it starts up or when it stops. I haven't really, other than the fact that you get a stable viewfinder out of these, and of course stable images, otherwise in that you can't tell that they are working at all. They're completely silent, at least in any kind of discernible way, and there's no moving in the viewfinder. They just do their job, and I've been able to hand hold shots down to like 1/4 of a second. I haven't tried to go lower than that yet, but they certainly are very effective in that regard, and so obviously very useful. And that is something, of course, that other 50 millimeter lenses are just not offering, and so that certainly is a super performance. There is a Canon stabilized 35 millimeter, but the Tamron does as good a job with the image stabilization, and of course has the ability to go down a little bit wider in its aperture, and so that's certainly a plus there. Areas where I would say they aren't super performance is that while the chromatic aberration control is not bad, I do see both some purple and then some, mostly in the bokeh highlights, some green fringing. Nothing that you can't easily remove in post-processing, but I've seen a better performance than what either of these lenses are achieving when it comes to chromatic aberration control. Also, the autofocus, pros and cons here. Autofocus is, as a great pro, they're very, very accurate. And I think with the 45 millimeter, when I did my calibration on it, I got a +1 figure. So, that made a difference, but it was a marginal change. To the 35 millimeter, I plugged in a -2 figure. Now recognize that those figures won't work on your body. They are body specific, but I'm always happy when I get somewhere close to a 0 in the calibration, because it means those of you that don't have a body that can do an AFMA, you'll get lenses that hopefully will perform very well out of the box for you. And some of you just may not even be interested in messing with AFMA, and fortunately these lenses seem well calibrated out of the factory. So that's a plus. The overall focus accuracy, that's something I look at very closely with third-party lenses, and of course, as I've mentioned, it's been a sore spot with a lot of the Sigmas that I've reviewed. These don't seem to have that issue. Focus accuracy is very good. But focus speed could be better. I have used lenses that focus more quickly when it comes to the 35, and actually of the two, the 35 millimeter is a little bit faster than the 45 millimeter in its overall focus. However, it's not quite as fast to focus as my Canon 35 millimeter, and that's the f2IS that has the USM motor. And so it's not quite as fast as that overall. And of course, these lenses, the fact that they can focus down so closely, more closely than any other lens in their class, means that there is also, if you're completely defocused towards minimum, there's more of a focus travel to get to infinity. And so you might notice that if your lenses are completely defocused. And that's particularly true with the 45 millimeter because it focuses down much, much closer than what most other 50 millimeter lenses do. The 45 millimeter lens is, as I've said, it's just a hair slower than the 35 millimeter. It's not to say that they focus slowly. In fact, I would say that focus speed is roughly on par with the Sigma Art series lenses that I've used. But neither of these are at the level that I've seen achieved with some of the best USM motors. And considering that these are moving a bit less glass at f1.8 compared to f1.4, I would say I would not call that a super performance. I would say that for most all applications, they will be fast enough. And most of you will be able to use them for whatever you want. And I've already done some AF servo testing with them, and they perform fine there. It's just, I noticed just a bit of hesitation before everything kind of slams into position there. Once they start, it's very quick, but it's as if there's just a split second of hesitation before they start focusing. And in some cases, it's almost like that little pulse at the end where it's hit the focus point, but instead of a kind of signaling lock, there's like a second, and again, it's split second, just a second pulse where it does that. And I would prefer, of course, that it just runs right to the target and locks focus. The good news, of course, is that focus actually is good. And so overall, these are very, very compelling new options. And in many ways, I think that they are super performance lenses. Whether or not they are the lens for you depends upon whether or not you seriously need f1.4 and don't feel that the vibration compensation is enough of an offset for that. But beyond that, these lenses are offering a lot more than what a lot of their competitors are, and of course at a very competitive price point. $599, these are a lot of lenses for the money, and of course undercut their Sigma Art competition by a good margin. In the case of the 35 millimeter, by $300. In the case of the 45 millimeter versus the 50 millimeter art lens, by $350. And so that certainly is a very significant improvement. And if you want to kind of cross shop with, say, the 50 millimeter f1.4 from Canon, just know it is not even close to being in the ballpark optically of what these new options are. These new lenses are blowing those old 50 millimeter lenses out of the water. And I would also say that the bokeh quality from these lenses is very, very good. In fact, I would prefer it personally to what I've gotten out of the Art series lenses in the past. So a lot to consider there, and I'll give Tamron definitely a thumbs up for the beginning of these new lines, and there's a lot of other focal lengths I would love to see them explore with these new series lenses, because I think that there is room for these type of lenses that offer a lot of professional grade build, but at a price where more amateur photographers or those that are starting out in photography or wedding work can actually afford them. And so a lot to look forward to there in the future. So I'm excited about this new line from Tamron, and happy to say that overall I would say yes, these are super performing lenses. I'm Dustin Abbott. If you haven't already, please subscribe.